Welcome to the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast, where we are building a community of people who are in the midst of midlife, sharing our stories and learning from each other along the way. Each week, I'll have a guest join me to discuss a topic that impacts our lives and touches on some aspect of midlife. We'll discuss relationships, transitions, health and well-being, parenting, careers, and more. My goal is to encourage and support you and help you thrive as you navigate this adventure of midlife. Join me here each week for the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast. This season is all about powerful perspectives, real stories, and fresh insights from incredible women who are thriving, growing, and redefining what it means to live fully in midlife. This week, I'm joined by Dawn Sparling. Dawn is living in full color in the middle of life. After taking an adult gap year from her human resources career to reflect and live more intentionally, she's now helping women embrace their bodies and their stories. She recently launched her new program, Love the Skin You're In, Body Shame to Body Celebration, guiding women towards greater self-acceptance and confidence. In this episode, Dawn and I talk about her inspiring new program, which I had the joy of participating in this year. I share my experience in the program and how the tools I learned will stick with me for years to come. Dawn opens up about what inspired her to create this work and how you can begin today to recognize the role you play in how you see and speak to yourself. Dawn Sparling, welcome back to the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast.
Thank you. Great to be back.
I almost forgot to say welcome back. You have been a guest on this podcast. I looked it up because I couldn't remember exactly which season, but it was season 5, episode 8. So that is Dawn's initial episode. If you have not listened to that, please go check it out. It is all about a really cool time in her life that we can talk about it a little bit today if you want, but it was just a really cool conversation about decisions you made and cool things you were up to. And I kind of feel like this episode is kind of like the next phase or the evolution of kind of that journey that you have been on. And so check that out again, season 5, episode 8 with Dawn. And I'm so glad you're back. But if someone has not listened to that episode, before we get into our conversation today, could you just share a little about yourself, what you're up to, and anything else you would like the listeners to know about you?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I am originally from Iowa, but I now live in Boise, Idaho. So, which gets confused. We know that all the time. Um, every time. Every time I say I'm from Iowa, it doesn't
Idaho?
fail.
Ohio? No, you can say you're
Yeah,
from Idaho or
exactly.
living in Idaho anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I have 2 grown children. So one is 27 and one is 25. They're pretty much out on their own. One's getting a doctorate, the other one just finished her master's, and she's actually back in Cedar Rapids working. And then I have just been doing some inner work, doing some of the stuff we're going to talk about. But probably the biggest thing was about 2.5 years ago, I quit my job in corporate. And then the season that Nicole is talking about, I talked about speaking on the stage and telling my story. So I ended up getting divorced 7 years ago, and that precipitated a little bit my move to Idaho. Didn't know anyone in Idaho, moved here for a job and simply love it. And just that was kind of my jumping off point, and things just moving here. And then, like I said, 2 years ago, quitting my corporate job. And that was kind of another leap into new things. So, and here we are.
I will link the YouTube video to your story from the stage
Okay. Yeah.
because it's so powerful. I think we all kind of have these potential, these thoughts in our heads about potentially what we might want to do or could do, and quitting a job in corporate and moving somewhere where don't know anyone. That isn't maybe everybody's journey, but you really explain how that came about and why you took the leap of faith that you did and how it's, evolved and changed your life and things you're doing now and all of that. So it's just a really cool, I just see this really incredible story arc that you have been creating for yourself. And you've made some really courageous, brave decisions about how you want to live your life and being so intentional about that. And so I will link that because I encourage everybody to watch Dawn's story. It's really, really good. I was so proud of you when I watched that. I was
Oh,
just like, you
thank
go.
you.
I loved it. It
Yeah.
was so good. It was so good.
Yeah.
And we know each other because we used to work together back in the
Yep.
corporate days many,
We
many
did.
years ago.
Yeah.
And that just seems like another lifetime kind of, doesn't it?
It
In a way,
does.
a little
Yeah.
bit? I don't know,
It
maybe
sure does.
it's
Yeah.
weird. Like, it's like, "Who's that? I don't know who that person was." I'm sure you feel like you've changed so much and evolved, and we
Oh,
have
yeah.
too, but
Yeah, for sure.
a
Yeah.
completely different life, I feel like sometimes.
Mhm.
But today, you are sharing, with me today about a program that I was blessed to get to be a part of recently. And you recently launched that pilot with us, our group of your program. It was so much fun and so encouraging and inspirational. And I had such a great time being a part of that program. So, could you kind of set the stage, share more about the program that you have developed? Uh, how did you come up with the focus for what the program is all about? What does it
Yeah.
entail? Just give everybody an overview of your program and what you're up to.
Yeah. Yeah. So the program's name is Love Your Skin, Love the Skin You're In, from body shame to body celebration. And I had the after 50. And so I've been kind of toying with that. We actually did the pilot. There were three pilot women in the program, and one of them actually was under 50. The intent really with that age marker is more of, probably not going to resonate with 20-year-olds, even though some of the things, are there, certainly that it doesn't matter what age you're in. As far as how I got going, so I mentioned, and you mentioned in my story, and that you would put a link to it. And so, what happened at about, it's been about 2 years ago now. I went into a program. It's called Bold and Visible, and Callie B. Elwanes is the curator and the creator and the mentor. And, she manages the whole community and program. And one of my really good friends had been a part of it. And again, it was about that time, about 6 months after I'd quit my corporate job and trying to decide, of course, doing some traveling and getting to see family or whatever was part of that, taking some downtime. But it was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do next and being reflective. And so that program really looked at somatics and um, inner work, and breathing and just your body and neuroscience kinds of things. But I jumped into that program, like I said, a couple years ago, and went through the 12-week program. Well, then after that program, part of it, you can go and tell your story on stage. And it's not your autobiography, it's not I was a child, whatever. And honestly, I didn't really know what my story was going to be. And the body image part of it that came out of it and that moved into this pilot, that was absolutely not what I expected it to be. If you would have asked me, 2 years ago, you're going to be leading women in a pilot that is talking about, you know, body shame and body celebration, I would have been like, yeah, no. Um, so, um, so about a year ago from when we're recording this, it was October timeframe where I went on stage, and that was really an amazing um, threshold for me to get on stage. I'm not afraid of speaking in public, but to say those things that I said, and again, you'll have to go watch it. It's about 7 minutes, so it's not super long. But it's just a different way that Callie does things, and how you tell your story. So it's not even, it's sort of a TED Talk-ish kind of environment, but it's definitely different. And so after doing that, then we had the opportunity to really try to see, like, can I have this be a business, or working with women? Because I don't know about your listeners, but I know for you probably, and for me, we get to this age, right? And not that my corporate job, I loved it. I've been in human resources for a lot of it. I did project management before, but it's a little bit cliche, but you get to that point where you're kind of like, huh, I wanna do something that's gonna um, not even make a mark, but just mean something and help people. I mean, I'm definitely, a helping personality. And so Callie just, really encouraged us to dig down, and we did lots of different things to get there. But um, really coming up with, the baseline was our story, and then where could that go? With working with women. And it ended up on body shame and body celebration.
I love that. Yeah, I completely agree with the demographic side of it as far as women in the middle season of life that this resonates with. I think that many of us at this stage are looking at our lives. We might be doing some reflecting on what am I doing? Am I really fulfilling the purpose or the calling, for my life? What kind of legacy am I going to leave? Am I
Right.
going to be serving in the way that I feel like I was designed to, And
Yeah.
it's interesting because I talk to a lot of women in this age group that are making some changes. And they don't have to be like massively huge changes, but they're making some changes, whether it be in their professional life or their physical health or whatever it is, because they kind of it's a time of reflection, I feel like, for a lot of us. And we look back and we say, okay, the first part, of my life, what did I do? Was I really living, aligned to the values and things that I wanted to live with? And so I think it's a really great time for women, for people to think about, not only looking back, but also looking forward and saying, how do I
Yeah.
want to spend the next 20, 30,
Yeah.
40 years of my life? And so I think what you've done with this pilot program, and just in terms of saying, I've had all these years in corporate, done well in HR and project management, but how do I want to make my mark? What kind of lasting legacy do I want to leave? And so creating a program like this that serves people well and gets them to address and focus on some things that might be holding them back in their lives, and how do they move forward, and how do they move from a place of body shame to body celebration, um,
Yeah.
for those of us that are faced with that struggle with that, because not everybody does, but for those of us that do, I think that talking about it and talking about it with others and relating and forming kind of community around it, I think is super, powerful. So, and your program absolutely does it. And I can say that because I just did it and it's wonderful. So I'm so glad, one, that you did that, that you decided to take the things that you've learned. I think what's nice about it is it's like a combination of your personal lived experience, but also things that you have learned through working with Callie and doing the
Yep.
research and doing the work to develop this program and the content of the program. And I totally agree with you that I think middle age is a great demographic for this program. I think younger, not that people that are younger don't face these same issues, but I think women in middle age tend to be kind of reflective and thinking about it a little bit more, maybe, as we're
Yeah.
as we're moving forward. So in this program, in the Love the Skin You're In program, which I love that name, by the way, you do talk about body liberation. And that wasn't a term I was familiar with. I've heard of like
Yeah.
body positivity and some other terminology. Can you share more about what that is? What is body liberation?
Yeah. Um, I found that term in one of the books that I read called Your Body Is Not an Apology. And I have the book right here, so I have to, it's Sonia Renee Taylor is the author.
Mm.
And that was the first time I had heard the term body liberation too. And I had thought about my own journey in marriage and career and those kinds of things too. And that word liberation had come up as well. So when I saw it attached to body, I was like, yes, that resonates because you're right. We know about body positivity, right? And it's about you know, people come in all shapes and sizes and colors and all the things, right? And we just have to be um, more inclusive and acceptive and just we can't all be the same, but we have this society, at least, when we were growing up in the 80s, 90s, that said you had to look a certain way, marketing has really been responsible for a lot of that, and a lot of us bought into that.
Yeah.
So the thing that resonated with me is like, we're not always going to be positive about our bodies. But we can be liberated and feel that we are not held down by those standards, by what other people say, by what we see in the media, or, just anything, maybe traumas that we've had in our life, those kinds of things around body,
Mhm.
and our body image. And so body liberation is where um yeah, you're good with your body. I mean, and maybe you have some days, I still have them certainly, where, yeah, I look in a mirror and I'm not excited, or,
Mm.
mental health wise, those kinds of things. But it's not a standard of staying positive all the time, because we know that that's not going to be possible.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I resonated with this when you approached me about being a part of it because, liberation to me equals freedom. Like I have freedom from
Yes.
the thoughts and the constant thoughts about, how I might look or things like that. And because you're absolutely right. Not every day are we going to be 100% happy with where we're at. And that's okay. But what I think your program does is it just brought more of an awareness to me that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to also really like how I look and be proud of the way that I feel in my body and things like that. And it just reminded me and got me to thinking about the things that have maybe held me back in those areas over the years. And so that's what I really equate to true, freedom and liberation from
Mhm.
those thoughts, whether it's the negative self-talk or like you said, the media, the standards that we have all fallen for and bought into over the years. Absolutely. So I don't want you to give too much away about your program because I want people to participate because it's wonderful. But
Yeah.
can you just share maybe one? So someone's listening, you're like, okay, well, I want to be free of some of these thoughts about
Mhm.
myself. What is one thing that you could recommend to someone who might be listening today? Because it is so challenging to shift those thoughts, right? It is a process. I still, I have a lot of great techniques and thoughts and processes from the program, but how do we move closer? What is one thing you could share with somebody that could help them maybe move a little closer? Maybe it's a habit they could practice or an exercise they could do, something that could help them move closer to feeling more freedom in their body and how they feel about their body.
Yeah. Um, I would say, because there's a couple that, there's definitely several things that we did in the class, and trying to um, in my own self, kind of feel what would be best for the women, those kinds of things. But certainly, I think the first thing is really becoming aware, like you said, having that awareness and really having the awareness of the role that you play. When I do the workshop, I go through and I end up talking about three critical shifts. I talk about in the workshop, we're going to discover how you can empower the truth about your body, that you've never been shown, that kind of thing. But I think it's really looking and being aware at your role and some of the things you're holding on to that no one else is. Nobody else is thinking the things maybe that you're thinking about yourself. But for whatever reason, maybe something happened when you were younger, and you can't quite let go. So we put on these layers over ourselves over the years, right? And I know people have heard that. From different people, and we get in this habit of being that person, and then we really forget who we are, who we were
Mhm.
deep down.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things too that's helpful is maybe too, even if you don't do some sort of a centering or a grounding, or really try to, like, one thing, like, look at yourself in the mirror and try to really let your feelings bubble up, and don't have any don't have negative, positive, whatever, just let them come, be okay with it, and just feel and see where that is coming. How are you feeling from that? Because we are on our cell phones, we are listening to podcasts, which are amazing, but sometimes
Distracted
when
though. There's a lot of
yeah, we
noise. There's a lot of
distract.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we distract ourselves, and then we really don't face that.
Mhm.
And then we might attribute some of that to other people when it really comes down to it, right? That awareness, and you
Mhm.
have a role as
Right.
well.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's critical, right? To identify, yes, there are things that have to happen to us that are external to us, either situations or people or things like that. But I also think that we hold things internally, messages that we've, said to ourselves over the years that just become the go-to, right? So
Yeah.
if I remember you had us do that, stand in front of a full length mirror, head to toe, and just observe what feelings and thoughts come up, not judging it, not trying to push anything away, just naturally letting, what do you think? How does it, what are you thinking as you are looking at yourself in a full length mirror? And I remember even in our class, I know a couple of us talked about how like we don't even have like we don't even have a full length mirror. Like we don't even allow ourselves, we don't even have that. We all see
Look
each
in a
other
full
from a
length
certain
mirror.
point
Yeah.
up, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And to actually have to do that and to actually look at ourselves as we are today. Because I think one thing I want to share about this program
Yes.
is your program is not about like, oh, you need to go from this to that and A to B or this weight to that weight or this size to that size. It's about accepting yourself how you are right now, right?
Mhm.
So wherever
Yeah.
you're at, if you're even if you're on a health journey, of some sort,
Yeah, absolutely.
accept yourself today, and your program helps people to do that over, with the shifts that you talk about and things like that. It's about today, not, in 6 months when I lose the 25 pounds or whatever, right? It's about
Right.
today, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think too, we get in a mindset of feeling we need to fix something, because that's what we've been taught, and that's what we believe. And so, one of my shifts is own your beauty. And it talks about, boldly, unapologetically, like, own it. And it doesn't mean like, you have to be a size whatever, or you have to be a weight whatever. But but we think not just for body, but for our families or for our careers or anything, when we get to a certain milestone,
Mhm.
we're a director, we're a whatever, we have 5 kids, we have blah, kids are out of the house,
Yep.
that then everything is okay. And so we come in with this fixing. And so I really encourage people to feel, because I myself, and that's where the somatics comes in a lot too, is that um, there's neurological stuff as well, but your body's doing, it's a safety thing
Mhm.
for your body. And so, you forget. And I go to a therapist and she would, how does that make you feel? And I couldn't verbalize it, and I was like, why can't I verbalize this?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so it's really just, getting back with those feelings. And um, I know it probably sounds a little woo-woo, but and it definitely is different. It's different. It's not a checklist. Like if you do these 5 things, then you'll
Mhm.
get to this. That's
Right.
not what it's about either. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. And I think people, they like those kind of programs where it's like, do these 5 tips and you will be fixed. Well, no, that isn't how real life is. That
yeah,
does not work. And I think what's great about your program is that you gave us exercises and things to do that we can do ongoing, that we can do afterwards, um, and keep doing and checking in and doing those things because it is an evolution. It's an ongoing thing to learn how
yeah.
to own your beauty and know your worth and all those kind of things. It doesn't just,
Mhm.
and you would probably agree with this, like in your 12-week program from day one till the 12 weeks is over, you're not going to be like it's an evolution, it's a journey, right? The 12 weeks you get
Right.
more
Yeah,
information and tools and practices and things and learning and community and all that wonderful stuff, but it's not like at the end of it you're going to be like check all the boxes, right? There's no boxes to check. It's just this process that you will go through and will continue to go through.
yeah.
And that's what I love about it. During the program, you had us do some different exercises to help us get closer to a mindset of body liberation and freedom from the negative things that we think and
Mhm.
about ourselves. And is there one that I mean, I can recall a couple of them. One I did not like, and I told you I didn't like it because you had us go, I hate trying on clothes, hate it. And that was one of our things that we had to do. And I said, I don't want to. I don't want to, but I did it. You had us try on clothes at a store, at a store that we like to shop at. And I didn't want to do it, but I tried on clothes I liked, tried on some things I never would probably wear. But
Mhm.
just your point was like, just try it on and see what comes up. Like, what in the dressing room, like, what do you think? What do you feel? Because that can be, you know, I don't want to use triggering is used a lot, but that can be a thing
Yeah.
for people they just want to avoid, that. They don't want to deal with what that feels like, especially if they've had situations where they've gone in and clothes haven't fit or whatever, or they've been criticized for something they've worn in the past or whatever. And so I just think that things like that, just, and again, some people might be listening, think, well, what's the big deal about trying on clothes? Well, it kind of depends on your perspective and where you come from. But for me, that's something I just really struggled to do and want to do, but I think there's a point to all the things that you have us do in there because it brings up some of those feelings or things that are kind of we push down, and don't address and handle and take care of. And so I really appreciated that opportunity to do that. And I remember another person in our class actually had a fantastic experience when she went
Yeah.
and tried on
Yeah. She
clothes.
had a great experience.
And I'm listening to her going, "Oh my gosh, this is fantastic." So like for her, it was this wonderful moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad."
Yeah.
that she did that
It was
because
almost a breakthrough for her, I
it
would say.
was. I
Yeah,
agree. It
because
was
she had some things coming up um, in the fall, and and I think it really, yeah, it helped
opened
her
up a
with
lot of
some of that.
doors for her,
Yeah,
just
it
mentally,
did.
emotionally, that might have been
Yeah,
closed, and gave
yeah,
her, because she had shared some, experiences in the past, which I'm sure we've all had, where we've gone into a store and not been welcomed or not been seen like for who we are and not been supported and things
right.
like that. And um, she had the opposite of that experience. And
Mhm,
so it was
mhm.
so cool to hear her share that because it
Yeah,
was like, oh my gosh, yes, like that's what it's supposed to do. Like that's what's supposed to happen. So I was really, really
yeah.
happy to hear that for her. So,
Well, and I think the other thing too is that something in the program that I'm doing and that Kelly encourages us to is that we're talking about things that people don't usually talk about. I
mm,
mean, we don't talk about, I mean, we talk about sensuality as well
mhm,
um, in the program too. And right, and that's not something that we typically talk about. And so it's a different way of talking about things. But I think the biggest thing I know from my experience with Bold Invisible and the groups that in peer groups and cohorts that I've been a part of, that community, having people who have had similar experiences or who can relate.
mhm.
There's just something about that. Like, I might not even be able to talk about it with some of my closest friends because they've never had those same experiences that I have. And so, that's where it's really finding those women where, my story, my experiences are going to resonate with you. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, she gets it. Like, I think in the workshop, that's where people are like, okay, I want to hear more,
Yeah.
because you're saying stuff that like nobody's ever come out and said.
Yep, for sure. I would completely agree with that. And I think if anything, like if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, I really would like to learn more about this. First of all, I'm going to put information in the show notes about how you can connect with Dawn to learn more about the program because I know you're considering offering maybe a program in the new year. And so
Yeah.
there'll be opportunities for people to learn more about it and how they can engage with that. But I would say the community that was created in our group was incredible because it was other women who got it, who
Yeah.
I didn't have to explain it to, and I didn't have to explain how I felt all the time because they were also feeling very similar things and they knew where I was coming from. And we just clicked so quickly. And
Yeah.
because part of the program is so Dawn leads a weekly class session for all of us. And then we have a separate peer group and we meet without Dawn. So she'll break you up into different peer groups. And so we were together in our peer group. And so you had us do different things even in peer group than we did
Mhm.
in our regular weekly class. And so then we would kind of report back and stuff. So it was interesting how quickly we gelled and how much we just by the end, like it was like I had known these people my whole life and they
Yeah.
really understood an aspect of me that I don't know that everyone in my life can resonate with. To your point, like I
Yeah.
think there are people
Right.
that would be like, "Oh, I've never really dealt with that." So they
Yeah.
can't, relate to it. So to talk to people that can relate and that appreciate where you've been and all of that is just so powerful. So yeah, the community aspect of the program is worth the price of admission in my opinion because and then on top of it you get all these great tools and information and you're exactly right. We talk about things that just normally aren't discussed in a safe supported environment that um, you just feel like you can truly show up just authentically yourself and be open and transparent. And um, that's just rare. So
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
providing
Thank
that
you.
that
Yeah.
container for that. I appreciate that a lot because it was so helpful just throughout the program to know I could just show up, you know, how I
Yep.
needed to show up. And you guys were there to support and encourage me and that sort of thing. So, if this has piqued your interest, if you're listening, like I said, I'll put some links in the show notes. You can reach out to Dawn for more information. Is there anything else that you would want people to know about this topic, about your program? Anything else you'd want to share with the listeners today?
I think it's just really right. I mean, there's a community out there, there's people out there. So if it's not through something I'm doing, I would just definitely, if it has to do with body image, and most of the time people are thinking bigger bodies, but I mean, it can be smaller bodies too. I mean, it can just be body stuff.
Right. Right.
So I would just say, don't isolate yourself. Like try to join something, try to be a part of something,
Hmm.
because you can work through some of the things that are there,
Yeah.
and be successful and
Yeah.
be happier, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely, and have freedom, have
I think
freedom
that's
from
a
that
great
body
idea.
shame, from those
Yeah.
thoughts, those feelings that you have, and that it's a work in progress, and again, our to your point, our group was all shapes and sizes, and so it was neat that way. We all just happened to relate on this same kind of topic, so that was
Yeah.
really helpful. Well, Dawn, thank you so much for being on today. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you again for creating this program. It's
Oh, yeah.
powerful. It's love the skin you're in. I will ensure that there are links for people to connect with you. And I just really appreciate you being on today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow the show to make sure the latest episode is on your podcast feed each week. I would greatly appreciate a rating and a 5-star review on the podcast platform you're listening on. It helps others to find the show. If there are topics you'd like me to discuss on the show, please email me at themarvelousmiddleagepodcast@gmail.com or direct message me on Instagram at Nicole Stute. Thank you for listening.